I think the reason for that is that the state bureaucracy is so large, there are so many unelected officials with a vested interest in the status quo, that the capacity of the elected representative to effect change is remarkably circumscribed. You can come in having made all sorts of promises, and you can genuinely want to implement them, but you find yourself surrounded by civil servants saying this can't be done, this is how we've always done it. And we have that problem much more badly than you do. The reason that it is not as bad here as it is almost anywhere else in the world is because you have this kind of Jeffersonian model of dispersed democracy. So decisions are made closer to the people and units of government are smaller. Decisions can be made here at a town meeting that in Europe would be made at a national level by a civil service and then imposed uniformly.
More so in the western states. Here in Colorado, we've got lots of local governments. You go to a state like New Jersey, they have much more centralized state government, which will tell local towns and villages how to pave their streets. I wanted to ask you particularly about the hot issue right now. One of the things that Obama wants to get done is health care reform. And we all agree there needs to be something done on health care reform. It seems as though one side, however, wants to emulate more what you have done in the UK. Now, in the UK, it's not quite like Canada. Canada, it is one size fits no one. It is government owns it. You have no choices. As I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, in Britain, if you have the money, can go see a private doctor. If you don't have the money, you're still covered. And this type of universal care, and I know here they're calling it by all sorts of other names, single payer, or the Massachusetts model where you're forced to have insurance. If not, we will buy it for you, but you must have insurance. And how is that working? What's the lesson as we're about to embark on what seems to be a huge step towards the left in healthcare? What has happened in your home country?
I mean, you're right. We do have a small private healthcare sector. It is very small because people have to pay twice. They've already, if you like, been conscripted into paying into the main one.
Would it be very similar to say it's similar to education here in the United States, where you can go to your government school, but if you're a rich guy and you want to send your kid to you can go to someplace else.
And the result of this is that prices are artificially inflated because it's reduced to a very small market of very rich people. And so there's no real competition. And what's happened is that the private healthcare system tends to be not quite a monopoly, but a very restricted market. I mean, the big problem with a state-run system is that the patient is treated as a supplicant who is expected to be grateful for whatever he gets or doesn't get. He is not a consumer with some kind of contractual relationship with a provider who can insist on certain standards. And this means that if the decision goes against him, you can have situations where life-saving medication is withheld from you on the basis of a committee decision. We have an organization called the National Institute for Clinical Excellence, which determines what
name, by the way.
I know. It doesn't just tell you everything that's wrong about it. And in fact, there's an adult novel by C.S. Lewis where the NICE is a kind of satanic conspiracy. I don't know if obviously they hadn't read it when they named the institution, but the NICE basically can vote to kill you, or can vote effectively to say you may not get this treatment.
But everyone
is
covered in your nation. Everyone has health care.
In the same way that everyone is covered in Cuba and North Korea. I tell you, when Castro goes, we're going to be on our own. We're the last one in the world with this system. Everyone gets the same indifferent care. You might, if you're very lucky, happen to be in a place where there's a good, clean hospital and a good specialist and all the rest of it. But you've got no guarantee of that. And almost everyone has bad experiences. And okay, I'm not saying that doesn't happen here, because of course, man is fallen and people are imperfect and you have bad experiences under every model. The difference is that you can do something about it if ultimately you're paying, whether you're doing it directly or through an insurance system.
Means you
Whereas
get to
we
sue.
can do nothing about it.
So if I don't get the service in my country, I can sue my insurance company. I can sue my doctor. I have certain rights. Your country, I'm suing the government.
Yeah. You don't sue the government. I mean, you have no option to sue. You're expected to. I mean, unless it was kind of criminal negligence. If you couldn't sue simply for not getting treatment that you need,
But there are those people here who are saying, but we've got to do something. And this idea that we have 40 million uninsured. By the way, a couple of points. One, being uninsured doesn't mean you don't have access to health care. It means you don't have insurance. But you go to a doctor, you go to the hospital, they will treat you. But the other part of it is a lot of those are transitory folks. Those people who are permanently unemployed, or permanently uninsured, they need insurance. But instead, we're looking at socializing the entire system by steps, gradually. But that's where we're going.
It is by steps. I mean, you mentioned earlier the Canadian system. They began by steps. They did not outlaw private healthcare, but they found that once they had gone down this road, it took on a dynamic of its own, and they ended up in the situation they're now in with a state monopoly. Look, no system in the world is perfect, and an insurance model has its problems, definitely. Definitely. You know, the other day I had a flood in my bathroom from the flat upstairs, and the guy came round to do it up, and the first question he said is on insurance then, is it, sir? And of course how much he quoted me was going to be dependent on my answer. So an insurance system doesn't incentivize economy. And the US doesn't get, as I understand it, a particularly good return given the amount that people are paying in. But our system would be worse. I mean, just because there are imperfections in your model, as there are in every model, doesn't mean you've got to go for the one clearly worse one. You know, I think there must be a system where you can have a personalized healthcare account, which is not insurance-based, where there may be a small insurance element to insure against catastrophic illnesses. You know, if you get MS or something.
That's what we have here with high deductible policies.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when you start socializing, as they have done in Massachusetts, you can't buy those high deductible policies and then pay for the incidental things yourself. So you get a $5,000 deductible and you have an inexpensive policy, which means when you get hit by the bus, you're covered, but you need to pay for your own throat culture when you're feeling sick.
Yeah.
With about a minute or so left, let me ask you, as you're looking at your home, after you've now involved with the European Parliament for a decade, coming here on healthcare, what should we look out for? What's your biggest advice as we're all running towards a cliff, saying we're going to do something, and we're not too sure what it is, but damn it, we are doing something. What should that something certainly be or not be?
Well, obviously the advice you give to somebody running off a cliff is stop. And don't believe anyone who says something must be done. The most pernicious phrase in politics is doing nothing is not an option. I've almost never known a situation where that's true. You know, you can have evolutionary improvements to US healthcare. But I'm telling you, think of me as the guy from the H.G. Wells time machine who comes from your future and says, don't go there, please, I'm living with it. You know, almost any step you made towards our system would make things worse. It would make things worse for the poor, who are the people.
How so?
Because they would benefit if there is a competitive system, then standards are raised for everybody. This is always the left's argument. You've got to look after the people who, you know, may not be articulate, may not be wealthy. Therefore, we've got to have a nationalized education system, nationalized health. No, you know what? I'm the worst shopper in a supermarket. I've got no idea how much I should pay for a pint of milk, but the quality of the milk is guaranteed for me by the pushier shoppers who are better than I am.
The answer is do no harm first. Daniel, thank you. This was refreshing. Listen for me late nights on 850 KOA. Go to our webpage, independenceinstitute.org. I'll see you next week. You jab a jab, bamboozle, nuka noozle, bippity bop, You jab a jab, bamboozle, nuka noozle, bippity bop, I mean, you keep on talking, but you don't know where to turn it off. The day I met you, wish I'd been in Paris.